Back to where we were. I have a bunch of tabs to recap a little bit. A little bit of a recap here. Because I don't know what the fuck is going on with Meta anymore. Alright, Meta ended their, fact checker program. Meta ended some of the stuff where they're you can call trans people mentally ill again. Real freedom of speech. They're not a protected class on Facebook anymore for some reason. And then I had a video where we talked about this article, Meta's ending DEI programs and replacing them with DEI programs. And this is by our favorite Doug Melville. Doug Melville being a DEI practitioner, a name that we have come to recognize when he writes his garbage elsewhere. And so they go through about how Meta is basically doing they're just moving things around, and people are saying that they're ending diversity programs, eliminating DEI. But that's not exactly what's happening. Right? Meta's decades-long growth is due to diversity. It's time to stand up and give DEI teams their credit, blah, blah, blah. Meta's DEI evolution. And they're just explaining all the different ways that they're changing. Accessibility and engagement are two DEI tenets. Engagement is vague and in many ways can be looked at as a synonym for inclusion or recruitment. And accessibility is a corporation's responsibility for those who have a disability and is covered under the DEI umbrella. And so they just go through a couple of the ways that Meta is changing their language and making it more in line with the current climate of all of the lawsuits and all of the conservative activists who are rallying against DEI. I don't want to read through this because we already did the entire breakdown of this article. I have a clip of it on my channel, but I wanted to, sort of jog our memories. We read this article, and then we read this article as well about Mark Zuckerberg's charity, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, founded and co-led by Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan, reassured its employees after many began expressing concerns about recent changes at Meta as the company scales back its DEI commitments. In response, The Guardian reports that CZI's HR leader Mark Gundaker told employees that Meta and CZI are and will remain separate organizations with entirely different and independent commitments. Okay, so he has a DEI title. He is the head of people at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Interesting. Yeah, just head of people. Previously, he was a chief people officer, and then senior vice president at a different. These are different companies. These are not the Chan executive one. So he started as head of human resources, vice president human resources, senior vice president human resources, people officer, and then finally at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, head of people. All right, so that's interesting. The head of people said that they're not getting rid of DEI, not changing things. Mark Zuckerberg's philanthropy ends DEI programs and social advocacy efforts. I guess since none of us can remember, I'll read the entire article. Mark Zuckerberg's philanthropy ended its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs Tuesday, along with its social advocacy efforts, including immigration reform and racial equity grant-making, Fox News Digital has learned. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative's chief operating officer, Mark Malandro. So I did remember it was the chief operating officer. I remembered correctly. I'm not crazy, chat! I'm not crazy! Mark Malandro sent an email to staff Tuesday evening with the announcement. The move comes after Zuckerberg's Meta ended its DEI programs last month, a move to ensure that the company is building teams with the most talented people. Meta also ended its fact-checking program and lifted restrictions on speech to restore free expression across Facebook, Instagram, and Meta platforms, admitting its content moderation practices had gone too far. And in the realm of ending these things, they, cried about how it was the Biden administration who was basically, blackmailing them to do so. They're just oh, we couldn't resist the Biden administration. They were threatening us. In the company-wide memo, Malandro said he and leadership team have been reviewing CZI's programs and practices to ensure that they align with our focus as a science philanthropy as well as the current legal and policy landscape. As a result, we want to reiterate that we made the decision a few years ago to wind down our social advocacy work and have since discontinued that funding, as well as share some new changes we're making to our hiring and HR practices around diversity. Melandro explained that CZI invests the vast majority of our resources into building biohubs and supporting research teams to solve complex questions around biology and health. Melandro stressed that CZI is very focused on solving 4 grand challenges that will give scientists the tools to help cure, prevent, or manage all disease in the coming decades, including building an AI-based virtual cell model to predict and understand cellular behavior, developing state-of-the-art imaging systems to observe living cells in action, instrumenting tissues to better understand inflammation, a key driver of many diseases, engineering and harnessing the immune system for early detection, prevention, and treatment of disease. But Melandro announced that with CZI's focus on science, they've wound down our social advocacy funding. This includes our previous work on immigration reform, as well as our racial equity grant-making, as we've completed the 5-year program. Why is it always 5 years, chat? These commies and their iconography, they love 5-year programs. We announced in 2020. Oh, we all know what happened in 2020. We haven't launched new programs in this area for a few years. There are a small number of multi-year grant commitments we made previously that we will still honor, but none of these will support political activism. Melandro added, looking ahead, we expect CZI's increasing focus to continue to be pushing the frontiers of biology and AI. As for DEI, Melandro cited the shifting regulatory and legal landscape. In addition, given the shifting regulatory and legal landscape, we will no longer have a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility team at CZI. The 3 members of the team have transitioned to new roles and responsibilities. And see, this is, again, where the problem lies. You can't just take somebody that worked in the DEI department or as a DEI official and then just give them a different role somewhere else, because that means that they're going to just be integrating this into the rest of the company, based on everything we've read before. As for hiring, CZI has also discontinued our diverse slate practice. Going forward, we will continue to cast a wide net to source top candidates, while always selecting the best candidate for the role. We remain dedicated to ensuring our work serves everyone, that you feel welcome at CZI, and that you can do the best work of your career here. To support this, we're building a workforce that reflects a broad range of experiences, thoughts, and opinions, supporting employees via our employee resource groups, which are open to all to join, and driving effectiveness in our work by rewarding individual initiative, excellence, and hard work. And I thought this was very interesting, because this was February 18th that the charity decided to apparently dump their DEI practices, whereas on February 6th, the Mark Gundaker, chief people officer guy, they say HR leader here. I guess, yeah, they just renamed HR. Mark Gundaker said that, no, they're not getting rid of DEI. We're not the same as Meta. We run on different policies. There's no need to worry. Just like a week and a half later, they're like, fucking get rid of it. Get rid of it, man. So nothing changes except the language. And see, this is where it gets interesting. Right, this is where it gets interesting, because that other article that I had pulled up, this one, the Meta CTO tells staff to quit if unhappy with new company policies. This was published on the 17th. So this was published on Monday, the day before the Zuckerberg Initiative decided to try and change their language. I have to go to the archive version, sorry. Meta CTO Andrew Bosworth said that employees who are unhappy with the current policies of the company are free to quit, as per a report by Business Insider. The report refers to an internal chat in which an employee criticized Meta for reducing diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and allegedly suppressing internal dissent, among other concerns. Bosworth responded that any employee who believes it's acceptable to leak information to the media due to policy disagreements should consider working elsewhere. An employee replied, stating that blaming leaks was not the solution and that Meta employees felt disrespected. Meta recently implemented its latest round of layoffs, which triggered a backlash from employees. The company had stated in an internal memo that it planned to lay off around 3,600 employees who are identified as low performers. The CEO Mark Zuckerberg described the decision as a step to raise the bar on performance management and move out low performers faster. However, Meta is not the only company in the US to change its DEI policies under President Donald Trump's rule. Now, isn't that funny, chat? Isn't that funny how Zuckerberg's like, all right, we gotta get rid of the low performing employees, and the employees are freaking out about DEI. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny that they immediately start criticizing the downturn to DEI as soon as he's like, yeah, let's get rid of some of these underperforming people. It's a tell. It's what we always knew. On the 5th of February, Google notified employees in an internal email that it would no longer set diversity hiring targets, and I have a tab on Google as well, and was reassessing the future of its DEI reports. However, this rollback may not necessarily affect its workforce diversity in other regions, as said Karan Bhatia, Global Head of Government Affairs and Public Policy at Google, in a virtual interview with ET. Changes to the programs that we've made are really focused on the United States, informed by recent legal and policy changes in the US. E-commerce major Amazon has removed the phrase inclusion and diversity from its annual report. McDonald's has discontinued its diversity targets and external surveys. On the other hand, some companies continue to prioritize diversity and inclusion. It's interesting also how they did not use the word equity in that sentence. Apple has urged its shareholders to reject anti-DEI proposals, arguing that such restrictions would hinder the company's ability to run its business effectively. And we did read this article on stream. Costco rejected a shareholder proposal to review its DEI initiatives, with 98% of the votes in favor of keeping them. I'm pretty sure we've read about Costco as well. Cisco, the government contractor, not the food one, and Delta Airlines have defended their diversity initiatives, emphasizing that they are crucial to their long-term success. Now, I don't know about Delta, but I know Cisco does involve itself with Bridge. On his first day back in office, Trump signed an executive order to abolish federal DEI programs. Trump's executive orders have directed federal agencies to place DEI staff on leave, meaning all federal DEI workers are on paid leave and are expected to be dismissed soon. DEI programs have been scrapped, with agencies required to end DEI training, contracts, and initiatives, as well as remove DEI-focused public websites and social media accounts. So again, very interesting things happening with Meta. Seemingly Zuckerberg is going to be a any way the wind blows kind of guy. He sees the writing on the wall. He knows what Trump is doing. He probably actually wants to dump all of these programs. But his company had been so entrenched with all of the DEI acolytes that, you know, as you see here, there are people pushing back about the decision. They are using the same exact language as other companies who are merely having their DEI go underground instead of being more noticeable. And that's where Sheryl Daija comes in to sort of give us her opinion on what might be happening. You prefer the term moral coward? Yeah, that's what he feels like. Same with Disney. People are now calling for Iger's head. Oh boy. Not Sheryl again. So I will actually take a screenshot of this one, since it is from the head witch herself. Daija writes, Meta creates impossible challenge around DEI. In rolling back its DEI programs and replacing them with an accessibility and engagement group, Bridge founder and CEO Sheryl Daija writes that it has set itself up for an impossible challenge to be innovative, while deliberately limiting the necessary diversity of perspectives in its workforce, leadership, and supplier base. The timing of these changes coinciding with broader political shifts suggests Meta is prioritizing short-term political positioning over long-term business health. And so if Sheryl Daija is saying Meta's using our language but they're not doing what they should be doing to prioritize the work, I'm gonna believe the person who specializes in using this subversive language, right? This makes me think that all of these weird things coming out about Meta, maybe they are getting rid of these programs. She said the thing. Yeah, it's also interesting how she's just like, you can't be prioritizing the short-term political positions over long-term business health. The long-term business health being the changing of the culture. And so the article here is in Adweek. Are Meta's policy changes political strategy or capitulation? The retreat from DEI commitments reveals a seemingly deliberate blindness to the factors driving sustainable business growth. Oh man, it's okay for Zuckborg to buy an 8 million bunker in Hawaii for God knows what. So Zuck is a grifter after all. I guess he just thought it would be easy to like roll back everything, and he didn't realize quite how dedicated to their religion these people are, maybe? I don't know. Like, I'm never gonna trust the Zuckerberg, right? Because he's just gonna do whatever's the popular thing. But this makes me think he's not like a true acolyte of DEI. He was just, I'm gonna do whatever seems to be what people want in current year. Oh shit, you people are true believers. Yeah, the lizard man. The lizard man, dude. Once a reptile, always a reptile. So Sheryl Daija, CEO of Bridge, writing about Meta here, says, the world seems to be in perpetual crisis. Some of us are desperately trying to fix it. Others, unfortunately, are giving in to cynicism and even opportunism, given the change of leadership in the White House. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg's abrupt termination of the company's diversity, equity, and inclusion programs strikes many of us as capitulation. The company's memo cited a shifting legal policy landscape as justification for dismantling the current structure of Meta's DEI team, ending supplier diversity efforts and abandoning its diverse slate approach to hiring. Both practices are inevitably part of a larger DEI strategy. In place of the DEI team, Meta has instituted an accessibility and engagement group. While accessibility has always been and still is an integral part of DEI, what exactly is engagement? It's worth asking, is this semantics or substance? Is it a massive sea change in the way Black, Brown, LGBTQIA+ populations are protected, seen, and valued within Meta's orbit? Or is it a pivot in response to the changing political winds in DC? And see, this is where I, as a normal human being who merely tries to read the subversive language of the communists, gets confused, right? Because I shouldn't say we, because I read a couple of quotes off to you guys, but I haven't played any of the internal meeting audios that I've taken, or videos. But in the last Bridge meeting that I talked about to you guys, that I attended, they all agreed that the language doesn't matter. And in fact, if you change the language to be able to keep doing the important work, that is what matters. Even as far back as like the Cannes Lions Festival, when Microsoft hosted Bridge there, they also talked about like, it's not important what it's called as long as you're committed to the work. So how does Sheryl Daija know that accessibility and engagement is not the subversive language of her peers, but is actually Zuckerberg turning tail? like, this is where my confusion is, right? Because everyone else is getting rid of the diversity language. They're changing it to inclusivity. They're getting rid of equity altogether. They want inclusion, right? They're changing all of these words, and it's typically obvious when you read it, especially once you get used to reading it. So how does she know? I was like, I'm not a communist, right? So I have to just kind of dismantle their ciphers. So how does she know that this is actually him retreating? How does she know this isn't the subversion? Communists love Islam, as they have a doctrine that pretty much says, lie to further your cause. Stupid, yes, much like goblins. What? Because they talk? I mean, maybe. Probably because Zuckerberg is a cutthroat businessman. It's possible. It's very possible. But it's like, from someone on the outside looking in, I can't rely on Sheryl Daija to be the one to tell me which individual company is not obfuscating language. I have to be able to figure it out on my own. And, like, you can't be jumping at ghosts, right? Like, some companies, like I said, the, fucking, what's it called? Tractor Supply Company. They were actually dumping their DEI program. So they weren't using subversive language. They were actually getting rid of all of this shit. They're actually returning to being a business. So I was like, Could there are no subversives in the group? I mean, it's possible. Maybe Zuckerberg already fired the specific acolytes. Maybe he knew who to target. But we have that other article that we looked at that said that they didn't fire, like, the members of their DEI team. They just reallocated them elsewhere. So maybe, I don't know. $5 says BlackRock's giving the main marching orders. It's a commie. You can assume they're lying when their mouth moves. She has a ton of industry contacts. She likely can get a real read on what's happening internally. Yeah, I'm just saying that, like, makes it harder for us trying to figure out what these companies are doing, though, right? Because it's like, I can't just wait for her to make articles on everything, you know? It's possible that they're rebranding the DEI departments and kept that person out of the loop because she's got a big mouth. Sheryl Daija doesn't typically write articles herself, which is why I made, like, such a light show on pointing out that she's the one who wrote this. Like, she's written a couple of articles, but mostly she gives, like, talks on the weekly meetings and whatnot. So her personally addressing Zuckerberg here, like, I'm gonna believe her that he's probably gotten rid of DEI. But the question is why? And why were they missing enough acolytes to keep the work going, unlike in the other companies? Seems BlackRock is currently more occupied with Fink not ending in court and doing something in the UK. Nobody knows what, though. Because it's Cali, it's extremely difficult to fire employees in Cali. DEI is basically the government saying they'll give back a fraction of the taxes you paid if you destroy your entire business by acting like retards. Oh my god. Either way, consumers and marketers alike deserve clarity. Is Zuckerberg implementing his own intentional fuzziness and misinformation now that he has moved away from facts? Mr. Zuckerberg, you can't subvert our subversion. That's what we do. That's what we do, sir. You need to keep us in the loop when you do these things. You asked an AI lawyer? You have a name tag you made that says lawyer, I'm very trustworthy? Jesus, I was like a Kirsche. Meta isn't just unfairly harming those enterprises owned by women, black, and brown people. It's potentially cutting itself off from innovative solutions and competitive advantages that emerge from varied business perspectives and access to all audiences. See, and this is also a weird thing to say, right? Because if Meta's like, look, we're going to end the supplier diversity programs where we give special status and privilege and fucking priority, that's the word I was looking for, to women or black people or brown people, and we're going to just take suppliers that fit our needs and that we think are good suppliers. We're not going to prioritize skin color or sex. So that doesn't mean they're cutting themselves off from innovative solutions. It just means that, once again, the white people, and especially white men, might actually be able to get contracting deals again here as a supplier. The women, black and brown people, the sword and shield. The timing of these changes, coinciding with broader political shifts, suggest Meta is prioritizing short-term political positioning over long-term business health. Yet we know all too well that companies who maintain their commitment to inclusion, that was this article, during challenging times emerge stronger and better positioned for future growth. Smart leaders understand that every business opportunity requires evaluating both potential and risk. The key is to focus first on the opportunity that inclusion presents, then work to mitigate any associated risks, not the reverse. The flood of dis and misinformation that has severely challenged social media companies from a brand safety and user engagement perspective is being felt more acutely than ever. This is not the time for any social media company to turn away from this responsibility. Meta's past experiences carry warnings for the future on this issue. Even the United Nations warned against Facebook as a useful instrument that spread hate speech and fueled genocidal violence against the Rohingya minority in Myanmar in 2017. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong, because my memory is not very good. But weren't the Rohingya the Muslims in Myanmar? And they were the ones who were basically like, you can't lie next to rabid dogs. Wasn't that what like fucking Asian Rathu said? Wasn't that whole situation? So what do they fucking mean by this? What do they mean by this? You're waiting for the saint to pop up in this article? I'm surprised we haven't seen him already. You don't know, chat is saying yes. So yes. Oh my god, the UN is pro-Muslim. That seems kind of wild. That seems kind of wild to me. Myanmar genocide against the Rohingya? What? Tech giant has banned several top Myanmar military officials over hate speech and fake news. Bro. I can't lie next to dogs. White women affected. That's a little insane. I don't remember them, like, even being murder-rated. I just remember the monks being like, yeah, we can't have these people in our country. I can't have these people here, is essentially calling for genocide with these people. Yeah, they were getting very murderated. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember much, so I would have to like actually unironically go back and read articles from that time period. Because I remember the Asian Wraith guy saying you can't lie next to rabid dogs. And I remember them talking about Myanmar people getting killed as well. All you know about Myanmar is the FGCS is being used by the rebels because they can't buy factory-made weapons. Back to Sheryl Daija. Back to Sheryl Daija here. At a moment of intensifying polarization, Meta should be shoring up its fact-checking and anti-discrimination regimes instead of erasing them. Perhaps even more so, it is absolutely their responsibility to ensure attacks against people on the basis of race, gender, and sexual identity, as new rules allow Facebook, Threads, and Instagram users to call LGBTQ+ people mentally ill or abnormal, are met with impunity. Why should they be protected from being called mentally ill or abnormal? I don't have protections for being called mentally ill or abnormal. I have people all over Twitter who call me all sorts of things, and I don't have protections from that. Why should we allow these specific people to have the privilege of not being insulted like absolutely everyone fucking else in the world? Genocide is another one of those overused words nowadays. Just stop being mentally ill. Skill issue. True and real. True and real. Because those mentally ill people are their brain-dead meat puppets. They need the useful pawns. Also, becoming more Bostonian the more frustrated you become. It happens. Fucking Kirsche censored. And because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. Ricky Gervais. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Group Snapchats are considered public. Posting on X is 100% public. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Explodes. Fuck you. The problem is legitimate criticism is frequently disregarded as harassment. It's a prevalent problem in the games industry. Also, absolutely. Also, absolutely. Fear is the mind killer. Explodes. Fuck you, man. Oh my god. Oh, it got deleted. There's an archive. Okay, let me finish up with Sheryl Daija here, and then we'll read that thing, because I don't know what the fuck was going on with that. Oh my god. Call the LGBTQ people mentally ill. Bad, you bad Zuckerberg. A space without mutual respect and civility will quickly devolve into hostile environments for brands and large swaths of consumers. It strikes me that Meta has set itself up for an impossible challenge. How can it maintain its ability to innovate and grow while deliberately limiting the necessary diversity of perspectives in its workforce? God, my throat's so bad today. Leadership and supplier base while making it harder to combat misinformation on all its platforms. History suggests this won't end well. Thank you, Sheryl Daija, for bringing your boss music to Meta. So I wanted to showcase those other Meta articles we read previously to sort of culminate in what's happening here. Since Zuckerberg used the typical language that we're used to seeing, where they basically just replaced DEI with another iteration of DEI. And then the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, their charity organization, the human resources director said that they're not getting rid of DEI. And then a week later, their chief operating officer said, actually, yeah, we are. And if you don't like it, I guess you can just quit, right? Like, you don't have to work here. And now Sheryl Daija is coming out and being like, Zuckerberg, what you doing? This isn't sticking to the plan. This isn't what we were gonna do. Zuckerberg. We might make things a little difficult for you. Sheryl versus Zuck Lizard. It's lizard on lizard violence. History shows we'll do evil things. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting development as far as what's going on at Meta over here. He's gone rogues. As Rogan put it, you get hit in the face in MMA, you learn reality real quick. I hope that this Adweek article makes it to other people as well, because they might look into who Sheryl Daija is, and they might look into Bridge. You always find it funny when people who have no clue claim that speech can be violence. True. I can't let you do that, Zuckerberg. True, unironically. The map is not the territory. She's big bad. Sheryl's maulding right now. I can't wait for next week's meeting, man. I cannot wait for next week's meeting.